So was there ever a moment where you and Perry spoke after kind of having a falling out and said, maybe let's try to avoid each other, or I won't step on your toes, you don't step on mine, or anything like that?
No, no.
So most of what you heard from Perry was through somebody.
Yeah. And that's always the way that it is. I mean, that guy, I mean, because I've seen some bubbles, like the lead singer disease bubble. Um, but I've never seen as extensive a bubble as Perry's, or as tight, I guess I should say, a bubble as Perry's. Like, really, it's him and Eddie on the inside of that.
Yeah.
And then they bring one person in at a time every once in a while. The new manager will be in there for a little while until he gets jettisoned again. And just anytime anybody brings any bad news into that,
Yeah.
they're jettisoned. So that guy gets no real information from anybody. I mean, nobody tells that guy, I mean, maybe Eddie does,
No,
but
that sounds
but
accurate.
nobody does. I mean, that guy just floats through the world not being told the truth by anybody. It's insane.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I was not going to be the first.
Yeah. So y'all do these three shows. I guess all three shows went pretty smoothly. And this gives you hope for possibly writing, or are they ready to push you off on a big tour? Um,
Well, I mean, it was all the plan was that we were setting up doing writing, and then we were going to write and put out stuff and do a tour and the whole, an album cycle basically.
yeah.
And we were not sure about how to do the music exactly. Like, it wasn't like we were going to, do a Capitol Records thing or whatever. We talked about maybe doing it directly ourselves and being the sort of free agents, not being tied to a record deal and thinking that the Capitol Records thing wasn't going to apply to us or whatever. And so there was a lot of, talking about different ways of putting out new music, but it was always, there was an eye toward, I mean, I think, and to be fair too, I think the Perry was really into the idea as well, conceptually anyway, of doing new music, and he too didn't want to just phone it in, and you know,
Right.
because for all his faults, and they're well, we've
He has
yeah,
faults, we'll say.
right, yes, we all know them. Uh, he really did want to write new stuff, make it be not just a retirement tour paycheck thing, whatever,
Yeah.
and
And he's
yeah,
saying
and
he's saying this to you
I
guys.
will
I'm excited about writing, or you're still hearing that through people.
um I don't remember actually.
Yeah.
Not sure.
I mean,
I don't remember.
it seems like wow. If if he's not talking to you guys, or is it just you specifically? That seems like a tough thing to deal with. Why move forward? You know what I mean? Or is this
Yeah.
just Perry? Maybe I don't understand how. Maybe this is the way it was.
That yeah, well that's the way it is in his life, period.
Right.
So,
So
I
it's
mean,
not just
at least
you.
as far as I could see. Yeah, it's not just me.
Yeah.
And you know, the folks around him that I know don't tell him the truth.
Right.
He just gets that whole, like, the sort of boy king problem. No one wants to tell him the any bad news, and so he doesn't get any truth.
Right.
It's tragic.
But at the same time, I guess you feel like I've heard Dave say before, he's one of the better frontmen, or at least he was at one point, one of the better frontmen out there. Is that your
Yeah.
opinion?
Well, that was definitely. I mean, the as an adult looking at it, I went in thinking we don't have to like each other. He doesn't have to like me. Obviously, I tried to mend fences with him years ago. It didn't go well. So be it. If that's the case, that's fine. I'll deal with that. Um, because, and I feel differently about that now as an adult than I did when I was 20. Um, but as long as the work is good, and if that guy's going to act the way that he does and be as oversensitive about everything as he is and all that stuff, you better deliver the goods at the end of the day, creatively and um,
Yeah.
and I mean, you just take a look at the guy's output over the last few years. It's just like, you
Right.
know,
But you felt
it's
differently, I guess.
unlistenable, unwatchable.
You felt differently in the original. The original,
Yeah.
like,
Oh yeah. He was. Yeah. Like I kept telling him that I kept, which was true, that I kept being struck as I was revisiting the songs to figure them out and remember them and all that. Um, being struck by how fucking brilliant he was in 1991. I mean, his lyrics, his vibe, everything. He was just like, in my opinion, he was the coolest, best rock frontman ever.
yeah,
I mean, I really can't think of anybody that I think was more compelling, captivating, interesting, unusual, creative. And I was there seeing it, seeing it happen. So
yeah,
um, that he was the real deal. And so, in thinking about it as an adult, I think if we can get him in touch with that,
yeah,
then he can be the princess, whatever sort of princess he wants to be, and that's fine. And I won't hit him. I'll leave the room, and then we'll put out a good record. Everyone will be happy. We'll do our thing. We will have, returned as conquering heroes, and we don't have to love each other. It's been done by lots of bands before us. So, you know,
So that's where you're at
so
this point. We
yeah,
can play together. We're not going to ever be friends, probably.
right, yeah. Well, yeah. After a little while, I gave up hope on in that regard.